Nick Darr here, getting ready to shoot another episode of Business Over Brew, which wouldn't be possible if not for our great sponsors at Roberts Motors. You know the Roberts Motors name. They've been around since 1949. Definitely a name that means quality. We certainly appreciate their support of not only this show, but all they do for the community. You talk about a local business that gets it in terms of supporting great community causes and just being involved in the community. The guys at Roberts Motors, Sam, John, the rest of the crew there, they really understand what it means to be a good business citizen in the community, and they've done that for a lot of years. If you're in the market for a vehicle, you know the car industry has been a little upside down lately in terms of inventory. They're starting to get more and more vehicles on the lot. Starting to see some new Broncos out there, so go check that out. A little more pre-owned inventory as well. They're certainly always in the market to give you a great deal if you're looking to sell your vehicle as well. Now's a great time to do that. And maybe something we don't talk about enough is just a really great top-notch service center at Roberts Motors. If you need work done to your car, you need tires, oil change, any kind of service work, Roberts Motors is really a terrific place to consider. And they would just appreciate the opportunity to do business with you, whether it's buying a vehicle, buying your vehicle from you, or getting some work done to your vehicle. Check out Roberts Motors on Albee Street in Alton or at robertsmotors.com. Welcome to Business Over a Brew. Pleased to be joined in this episode by Mike Martin, Martin's Tunes and Eats. Mike, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Easy for me to say. Thanks for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about your background and just a quick personal bio.
I spent 20 years traveling the country, and the latter years traveling the world actually, selling environmental programs for large manufacturers, basically a highfalutin scrap dealer, if you will.
So how did you get into that particular industry? What drew you there?
I started right here in town, many years ago, working at a scale down at the ASCON facility that's still there, right, that services the Alton Steel Mill, and started there and worked for a number of dealers till I worked for a company that serviced large manufacturers nationwide.
So you're from the area, grew up here?
Yeah.
Got your start here. I want to fast forward quite a bit. We're skip over a lot of stuff, but you about a year ago decided to open Martin's Tunes and Eats. Tell us about the decision to do that, number one, and then we'll get into the concept of the restaurant.
Sure. It's always kind of been a passion. Throughout the years before my career in the industry we just spoke of, I dabbled bartending and working at Don & Penny's and a few places in town, and had a passion for it, right? Didn't realize, thought, I can do this. They're all doing it. And so when COVID hit, I had to decide if the lane I was in was the lane I should stay in, and what that meant for me, financially going forward. I'm 50 years old. I had to start thinking about what comes next, right? So, I started looking at a few opportunities and had visited a number of great establishments in town, and came across the old Chico's facility on Wood River, and decided to go for it. And one of the reasons were I figured the industry was at the bottom. It couldn't get much worse with those shutdowns and the lockdowns and the people getting, if it wasn't for curbside, most of these facilities would have completely folded, right? So, I thought, there's got to be, the trajectory has to be north.
Right, yeah. So tell us about the concept, because it's a lot different Chico's experience than I think what people might remember from it, which Chico's was around for many, many years and did a great business, but you've really kind of changed the model quite a bit.
Yeah, when I first took over, the distributors came in and were full of ideas of how we can cut cost and how we can go to this ready product and straight to the plate, so to speak. And I said, hold up, boys, let me stop you here. I said, I'm really going to shock you, because I'm going to go completely opposite of what everybody else in the industry is doing because of labor, because of food cost.
Right.
We have to give people a reason to come out of their way. We're not on a great thoroughfare. Our location's not super ideal, so we have to make people want to come and make that turn to come visit us. And our gimmick is going to be fresh food, handmade products, reasonably priced, in super-sized quantity. So you really feel like you're getting your big bang for your money. And that's been a real challenge with food prices traveling upward about 28% since we've opened, right?
Yeah, I would think there's in just a year there had to have been times where it's tempting to say, "Gosh, I don't know about these quantities," right?
There, and not so much the quantity of the food, but really where these distributors and vendors were talking about is the prep time for, when you're making all your salad dressings and you're pounding out pork tenderloins and you're dipping your own, onion rings and pickles and all the time that goes into those products is, and with labor shortage, it makes it even that much more of a challenge. So.
You've added a lot to the menu. I mean, it's really totally different. But I love the fact that you've kept some traditional standbys that were Chico's favorites.
Well, there was so many, when we changed the name, right, and reopened the doors, there was such a mixed review. I mean, there were folks that came in hollering and screaming that we were killing a neighborhood institution. And then there were those that came in and said, it was time, it was probably time to rebrand. So, but looking at the whole picture, we realized there were some really, really good products that Colleen and Chico had put out, for the last 60 years. The last two owners continued to serve. There was a reason why we should continue to serve them. Sure. And, those onion rings, those big as your face tacos, those were things that have not changed in 60 years.
Right, and the model too. I opened for. I mean, your breakfast is fantastic. So talk about the decision to have breakfast, because I know that's kind of a change too.
Yeah, it was quite the shock to our staff when 30 days in, I said, let's just start breakfast and start that 7 days a week.
Yeah. How do you feel about being here at 7 a.m.?
Right. No, instead of being open just 9 or 10 hours a day, we're going to be open 14 hours, 15 hours a day. And again, during a labor shortage, it was probably a crazy idea. The dedicated staff have worked some really long hours over the last year to make sure that we, remain open and continue serving. I feel that serving a breakfast there's lots of good places to get breakfast, but there's very few where you're getting homemade gravy, homemade biscuits, homemade corned beef hash. We're slicing our boar's head corned beef daily, and it's being put in a corned beef hash right on that flat top. So it's part of that whole gimmick. So we feel like it's a little bit better, right? So we're hoping people will come a little farther to have it.
It's just it's a fun place to be too. Talk about trying to create that atmosphere. I mean, maybe there's no trying to it. Maybe it's natural for you.
I was really amazed of especially when it comes to the music side. I mean, we had four cornerstones for our emblem. It's sports, it's music, it's bikes, and it's food, right? I mean, we appreciate our bike clubs and organizations, and that we have a great spot for them. We are dedicated to our St. Louis teams, and now our great River Dragons.
Right on,
yeah. So we're all into that. Of course, our food, and then our drink. So the entertainment portion of it has always been a passion of mine since the first dabble in this industry, and I just didn't realize how many great musicians are right in the Wood River, Hartford, South Rock. I was amazed, and when I said I want to have a house band, I want to have a band that plays every week. And everyone that was coming in the place had talked to this guy named Kenny McPeak. And I didn't know Kenny. They said, he used to play, played in this band called Climate. I knew his old band, right?
Right.
Called Kenny in, and of course, he pitched this idea of a jam session on Sundays. He said the same four guys or three guys would get old, and we would get tired, and we are, of an age that we don't want to do that necessarily.
Right, yeah.
So they said, let's have an open jam. And I said, I really didn't know what he meant.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, whatever, Kenny. Let's just make sure we have music here every Sunday from 3 to 7.
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then the first one happened, and I realized it was karaoke, but with people with talent. And we had all these musicians that came in from all these different, and they brought their own groups in, and they would get up there for 2 or 3 numbers or for a set. And it's incredible. It's such a good time. I mean, it's, if there's any musicians that, don't have a regular gig they're playing with and just want to get out and knock the rust off whatever their instrument is, it's a great time to do that.
You have built an incredible outdoor space as well. That's for somebody like me. My wife always wants to eat outside. I'm like, no, it's too hot, it's too cold. But I think she might be able to talk me into going to Martin's.
Yeah, the last owner, the owner before last, Chris Stanley, he did a nice job with the vision of this patio. Of course, it was out of necessity because all the smoking laws had changed, and
Right,
you had
sure.
you had to do something, right, if you wanted to keep that part of your business. But they did it. They did it well. They put in
Right.
a very nice space up. And as I was taking over, the one thing I noticed though, yeah, it's great, but when it's hot, it's really hot out here, and when it's
Right.
cold, it's really cold. And they did put a nice heater system in, but it just couldn't. So we enclosed it to a acceptable level. We made it so that heating it was more affordable and we could heat the whole thing. And then we this spring just added air conditioning, and now it's air conditioned. So now, don't be confused. You're not going to sit out there and be 68 degrees and need a sweater on. But
Right,
you're
yeah.
always going to have a nice cool breeze blowing on you when you're eating out there. It's pleasant. It's what people want when they're sitting outside in an outdoor patio.
The first thing I noticed about the place when I walked in, we've got our 60s and 70s format on my mix. Number one, thank you for playing it a lot of times down there. But you walk in and you see all these great album covers from primarily the 60s and 70s. Where did those come from?
Yeah, that was I don't know if it was Chico or Chris Stanley after Chico, but one of the owners previous had some issues with neighbors and sound when they were having live entertainment. And as they built that stage, they had to put up some sound barrier. And someone came up with the idea of these old album covers, and there's some really neat ones. And we've got boxes and boxes of them actually out in the shed that we probably should be rotating them out for entertainment purposes. So that's year two's
Okay,
objective.
right.
Let's just, we'll have a Smash Do a competition with.
That's
with
a
that.
good idea.
Yeah.
So you worked in the industry. You probably, like a lot of people that work places, you think, well, when I own my own place, I'm going to do it this way. What were some of those things that you thought maybe that worked out, and some things you thought, oh, now I see why?
Yeah, I mean, there's many times I'll especially walk into the kitchen and say, you guys, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I mean, you're going to have to tell me why we can't do this because I want to, right? And as the
Right.
owner, they're always
And I
trying
own
to-
the place,
And
so.
they always try to oblige, but they've gotten really good about, of not suggesting things or coming up with too many original ideas because they do have some good ideas. And
Right.
in fact, yesterday they came up with an item that was a hybrid of an item that we already had, and it's on the line today as a special, right? And so I don't know. I don't know a lot about the industry, but what I do know is production, and I do know manufacturing, and I
Right.
do know how to get something from point A to point Z or D or double Z, the most leanest, the most efficient way, right? So all that carried over, right? So there was many times I would go and question them. Why are we doing this, right? Well, let's stop because it's redundant, right? Or we need to do this because so the expectation should be this. So there's probably things that we're not doing standard in the industry. For example, we're on a 3-day rotation. We don't slice any meat, boil any eggs, bake any potato, anything longer than what we think is a 3-day usage. Now
Right.
some of that item's 5, 7, 10 days, right? But we want to manage on 3 days. That way we never have an issue, right? We're always covered in our time. And if you have a training issue or a short-staffed, the potential of making a service mistake is shrunk. So it's that type of production stuff that I've applied, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. You don't think about that. You wouldn't put those two industries together and think this is a great fit.
Right.
But it has been in a lot of ways.
It
for
has
you,
been,
so.
yeah. We're making something. There's a
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. What's been the biggest surprise for you in the last year?
Well, as I said, I've got some really good, dedicated folks, and that are really committed to our cause. But probably the biggest surprise, Nick, is for decades I developed teams all over the country, and in some
Right.
cases, you're all over the world. And I thought, I'm just going to develop. It's a new team, It's just one that's right here in my backyard.
Right.
The things that motivate people in the restaurant industry aren't necessarily the things that motivate people in a sales force or in a manufacturing facility. So
Right.
that's been the biggest challenge is finding, their lifestyles are different, their living habits are different.
Sure.
So that's trying to find out what to plug into to motivate them. The other biggest surprise is not so much a surprise. I knew it was going to be a challenge. Was the millennial age, that age bracket,
Right.
motivating them and getting them to, there's been a lot of free money that's been not so free, but free
Right.
given out the word last year.
Yep.
And it's really unincentivized folks to get out in the workforce. So that's probably been the other big surprise is how little people really want to work.
That's a recurring theme we've had
Sure.
on this show and just in talking to business owners. And I don't know when or how that really sorts itself out. But
It will, yeah. I mean, it runs out, and the bills start backing up, and people are forced to go back to work, and then they will. I mean, it's cyclic.
Right.
We see it in industry.
As we wrap up, tell me about tell our audience about some of the regular promotions that you have. I know you have several of them.
Yeah, we do. I mean, because again, we don't know a lot, so we're throwing a lot of stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Some of the stuff we're really passionate about is Tuesday night family style. That's a big deal to us.
Right.
We shut our normal menu down at 4 p.m. It's family style fried chicken and pork chops grilled and fried and barbecued and chicken strips that we recently added because we realized this young children don't eat chicken on the bone anymore. It's a generation of chicken nuggets. So without the chicken strips, they weren't bringing
Right,
these young families in. So you learn from your data. So it really is geared to families. So we added chicken strips. And it's family style. It's all you can eat. Comes out in big bowls, and you gobble to you're gorged, and that's important to us because it's a time for people to commiserate together, right?
Sure.
We just started boozy breakfast shakes, which we think's a great idea. It's
I do too.
cereal and ice cream and booze. You can't go wrong.
Right.
There's Cocoa Pebbles and Captain Crunch. Really good. And then we're proud of the patio. We're looking forward to having lots of events out there now that it's going to be livable. We have our 1 year celebration coming up from the 20th to the 26th, and we have events planned. A bag tournament will be one that'll be out on the patio,
Awesome.
and some events like that. So really excited.
So celebrating a year, congratulations, by the way. Where do you see it the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, as we've said many times during this talk, knowing what we don't know. So, as I'm getting numbers, now it's time to really start dialing down on data, right?
Right.
What are our margins? What are our loss leaders? What's working? What's not working? Efficiencies in the kitchen, because labor's not where it should be, right?
Right.
And a lot of it's training and then losing them because of this high turnover, right? So
Sure.
you have a lot of that happens. So figuring how to fix those things so that the margins creep in the direction that they should be.
Right. Well, Mike, I think the future's so bright for you guys, and I'm so happy that you took it over, and I really think you got it headed in the right direction. Thanks for the support of the radio station and all you do for us, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thanks, Nick.